Welcome to episode 14. I know it's episode 14 because I just fucking uploaded all the other episodes, so whatever. You know what
Cool.
episode I thought it was last time?
What?
Episode 10. Turns out it was episode 13, so I was off by 3.
Okay.
There you go. So
There we go.
let's just fucking get into it. Question 1. What's your
All
ideal length for a JRPG? And I'm gonna preface this by saying, like, obviously a game should there is no technical ideal length. The game can only be as long as
right.
its
Mm-hmm.
content is entertaining. There's theoretically nothing wrong with a 200-hour game if it could remain interesting for 200 hours.
Yeah.
So this is just like more what's your ideal length, you know, for an average game or whatever.
For an average game or whatever, I don't know. Okay.
Fuck it.
Uh, if I'm gonna say for more real-time actiony ones, something like uh, Tales and Star Ocean, I'm saying like 40-ish. And for a more turn-based, seems to have a better story like the fucking Personas do, I would ramp that up closer to maybe 70, 80-ish.
Okay. I actually
But
have a breakdown for this that
of
I
course
came
you do.
up with a while ago, and I realized is basically just my answer.
Okay.
So for JRPGs, 0 to 20 hours is usually extremely short.
Okay.
20 to 40 hours is short. 40
Hmm.
to 60 hours is normal.
Yeah.
60 to 80 hours is long. And 80
Yeah.
hours plus is super long.
Yeah. That
So
sounds.
basically, to answer the question, that 40 to 60 range is what I expect from most games.
Yeah.
And which end of the spectrum? That's a pretty large spectrum because, like, Tokyo Xanadu was 45 hours. I
Okay.
could have dealt with shaving off 5 hours and getting around 40, but basically, if it was 60, it would have been way the fuck too long.
Yeah.
But then
If it was
something like
what?
Octopath Traveler was 62, and I felt that game was pretty perfect in terms of length.
Okay.
And that was to do all the side quests and everything.
Okay.
And you had Tokyo Mirage Sessions, which was right in the middle at about 50 hours. So it's just that 40 to 60 hour range is, I think,
Oh.
perfect.
Okay.
And obviously, like I said, there can be exceptions. I think Royal will always take me a minimum of 120 hours, and that's fine.
Just insane, but okay.
Like Cold Steel, I played Cold Steel 1 3 times, and it's almost consistently 60 to 65 hours.
Yeah. Mine was 65, like within half an hour of the time of my first playthrough.
Yeah, I don't know my first. I think my first playthrough was like 66, and then my second one was like 65, and then this
Hmm.
latest one was like 60.
Yeah.
So like that's a game that's just the same length every time, but it's fine.
Yeah.
It's when you start
Okay.
going over 60 that you start getting into the
Dragging.
difficult to just replay territory.
Yeah. That's fair.
Because even if it's a good game, justifying it's like Persona 5 is 120 hours Royal.
Hmm.
It's not something that I'm just gonna pick up and start again. Like
No.
that's it. That's
I.
a commitment,
Yeah.
and that's what I think when you get past. I mean, even in 60 hours, really, but like that 60 plus, that's when
That's
you're
where.
getting into hardcore commitment territory.
No, I get that because that's how I'm feeling with the cold steels right now. Because I'm trying to go through all four of them in a row. That's like fucking 250 hours at least.
Hey, at least
That's
you're
how,
not trying to chuck in the 5 fucking other games like I am
I'm gonna get to those.
on the side.
Yeah. So I get what you mean of it's a commitment to get through all those.
Yeah, so
I've
that's
yeah.
and I mean, if you can get a shorter game that's highly replayable, great.
Hmm.
You know, I actually have been feeling an urge to go back and revisit Tokyo Xanadu and Tokyo Mirage Sessions, specifically because even if they weren't 10 out of 10 games, they were short.
But they're short and fun.
And sometimes when you're in between these fucking big, huge commitment games, You
a
can do
nice, quick little,
yeah, something you can just
relaxing.
finish in 40 hours is nice.
Mhm, I get that.
So that's my answer, and that's your answer. So next question.
Next question. What is the first JRPG you remember playing? Not even beating or liking or anything, just the first one you remember actually playing.
Jesus Christ, this is a really, really, really hard question for me.
Should I go first then? Because I actually remember mine.
See, the thing is, I remember the first game I ever played, but because, again, my dad played video games,
Hmm.
I've been playing games for well before my memory has really developed.
Yeah.
So you go ahead and go first because I think I know the answer to mine, but just go ahead
Maybe
and go first.
I was gonna say maybe I can rephrase it and make it a little easier. The first one that you remember that you played on your own, that wasn't like a playing with a parent or whatever, but one that was just yours that you played.
Okay. Well, I think
That
the
help a little?
answers are the same, so
Oh, okay.
I think that, like I said, I don't know 100%, but
Okay.
I'm dredging up old memories here.
Digimon World, I believe World like 2 or 3. It was, yeah, weird little Digimon game, which I wasn't even a fan of Digimon. I never watched it, so I don't know why I had that game.
Was it
But
uh, the PS1 one?
yeah, it was the PS1 one. It did the whole trapped in an MMO kind of something or other.
What
I
was
don't
it called?
remember it. It was one of the Digimon worlds, and I think it was 2 or 3.
Digimon World 3.
I think it was.
2002. Okay.
It probably would have been before that then, but I don't know.
I just
Either,
wanted to look up the release date.
yeah,
And
it
for the
was,
record, the original World was 2000 and 2
okay.
was 2001.
Okay, so that would have put me at like 8 or 9-ish, I guess. So I don't know. Maybe fucking Pokemon Red predates that, but either way, the one that comes to mind when I think of first is that Digimon World, which I never beat. I sucked ass at it. I had no idea where. I never knew where to go. I got lost all the fucking time.
Well, if it is 3, I'm looking at the scores right now, and it had a 47 on Metacritic. So,
That is quite possible.
uh,
That is
which is an
very possible.
improvement from the second game, which has a 42 on Metacritic.
Oh God.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it appears that these games were not.
they were not fantastically well received,
Yeah.
which is, let me see if maybe if I'm lucky I can pull up a fucking image of it. Yeah, it was 3. I recognized the fucking box art. It was 3.
Okay. Then yeah, 2002 and 47.
So that would have put me at 10. So I probably did play Pokemon Red before that, but I don't really have RPG memories associated with Pokemon Red as much as I do fucking Digimon World.
Okay.
But yeah, I liked it. Like I said, it did that trapped in an MMO thing, which I didn't even know what an MMO was at that point. But
So,
so what? What you got?
my answer is going to be Pokemon Blue,
Okay.
which came out in the U.S. in September of 1998,
Okay.
which would have put me at 6 years old when I played it.
Nice.
And I I'm trying to decide if I want to reveal the story or not, because it's
Of
really
what?
embarrassing.
Oh god. Well, you can't just say that and then not.
Well, okay, so it was my first RPG that I ever played,
Okay.
and I was 6,
Yeah.
which means I didn't really know how RPGs RPG'd,
Okay.
and I didn't really care to read because I
Understandable.
was 6 and I didn't
Yeah.
have anybody like yeah, my dad played games, but he wasn't like watching me play it. Actually,
Yeah.
the whole reason I ended up with that game is I actually remember we were in the store and it was recommended to us by the clerk who we were
Okay.
on good terms with.
Okay.
He's like, "Hey, this thing is really big in Japan, and I think your kid would really like it."
Huh.
So we got it, and for the first couple minutes of gameplay, I thought that I was the other guy.
What, Gary? Or
Yeah,
okay.
I lost that fight 3 times because for some reason in my head, when you pick the starter Pokemon, you get the frontal image.
Yeah. Okay.
Then in battle, it switches to the back image. But I had looked at all 3 of them, so I was like, I thought I picked the other one because like
Okay.
my dumb ass kid brain did not connect the dots.
Huh.
So I kept using like tail whip over and over and over because I thought that was somehow like I thought I was the other one.
Yeah. You thought you were the one on top, and
Yeah, and
tail
like
whip wasn't hurting the one on top, and the
exactly.
one. On... okay.
I died 3 times before I got the picture,
Nice.
and it's just you really forget. I think when you've been playing these games for so many years, how foreign it can be to somebody who just has never.
Has no idea what's going on.
Yeah, like even something as basic as this is your health bar can be.
Something to learn.
Because the first game I ever played was Legend of Zelda,
Okay.
and in that game you didn't have enemy health bars.
No.
In fact, looking at it now, your health bar in Zelda is positioned where the enemy health bar is in Pokemon.
Oh, I guess it is. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't remember exactly how it happened that I thought that, but
Oh.
that's
Oh.
just how fucking young I was when I played that game.
Okay.
But
Nice.
yeah, that was I think my first. I don't remember
All right.
watching my dad or playing any of the RPGs on the Super Nintendo, but Christ
Okay.
knows,
Yeah. But that's
talking
the first one. All right.
26 years ago or 22 years ago at this point.
Yeah. All
Yep.
right.
Now, well, that'll
Cool.
be a question for another time, I think,
Oh, okay.
to expand on that and say what was the first JRPG that you really liked, like the thing that really got you into them.
Okay. Well, now or later, I'll let that be your call.
How about we just keep going, and if we have time at the
Have
end, we'll
time.
wrap around back to it because we're pretty short so far.
I suspected we would be for a couple of these questions.
So we'll just keep on going, and if there's time at the end, we'll wrap around to it.
That works for me.
So my second question: a lot of JRPGs have mini games in them. Some do, some don't.
Yeah.
Like the Final Fantasy games usually have a couple mini games in them.
Hmm.
How do you feel about these? Like Trails 2 has the snowboarding.
Trails has the snowboarding. Trails also has the fucking card game,
Oh yeah.
which I like the card game.
Well,
Um.
the nice thing about the card game is that win or lose, you get the points either way. If you
Yeah.
had to win to get the points, I'd hate the fucking card game.
Oh, I would too. Um. I like them when they're optional. When it's something to do to break up what you're doing, or it's something there that helps with the world building in some way, and it's just an optional little side thing. I like the inclusion of something else to do. Like the snowboarding and the card game and Trails, the casino in Dragon Quest and Pokemon and probably everything else that has a casino. But what I don't like is when you have to do them either as exploration or movement or as
As what? You
part of
cut
the
off.
story.
Oh, okay.
As exploration or as forcing you to go through part of the story. Because it's like it's such a shift from how the game is played that it doesn't. I don't know. I don't want to say it doesn't feel like the same game anymore, but sometimes I get that way, or it feels like it takes me out of what I was playing. And the one that sticks in my head about Final Fantasy VII is there's a snowboarding part
Yep.
towards the end of the game, and if you want to go fucking down the mountain, even for your second or third time, you still have to play through this fucking 5 minute stupid boring mini game. And doing that like 3 times really fucking sucked because it was mandatory. So if I could have snowboarded for an extra item or something, then that's fine. But when they
Well,
make you do it, is where I start to lose interest.
here's the thing, because an interesting example of this is Final Fantasy X,
Okay.
where it's optional to do like the chocobo racing,
Hmm.
but in order to get the item to unlock Tidus's ultimate weapon, you need to not only do the chocobo racing, but
But do it
get
well.
actually a ridiculously low time in it.
And I'm okay with that.
Like
Cause
ridiculously low. And but I'm not done yet.
okay,
And the problem is, if you want to do any of the post game content, you need the ultimate weapons because they break the damage cap.
okay,
Which means that essentially, to do any of the post game stuff, or any of really the optional end game stuff, you have to have played this mini game. And when I say it's hard, I mean it's hard.
okay.
And there's no cheese.
Hmm.
And it's even a little bit based on luck.
I mean,
And
that
that
amount of
to me is
what?
where it starts fucking me off.
It's like I was gonna say that amount of difficulty, if it's as bad as you say, that kind of sucks. But the idea that everything that it requires is still optional or end game or post game or whatever, I can still justify it as not being mandatory.
And see, I don't like it because to me, you're locking things behind gameplay skills that aren't related to the core gameplay loop.
And I get that. And that's why I said I don't like it for mandatory part of the story stuff. But
But
I
locking
don't know.
all the ultimate weapons behind a mini game that
Mm,
is, like I said, doesn't resemble anything else in the rest of the game
no,
is stupid to me.
I can see that, and
And that's where ultimately, if it's the difference between, if the mini games are just there and they're optional and they're for fun and they
yeah,
have like stupid little rewards, great. But
yeah.
it's when they start getting into rewards that impact the core gameplay loop
Hmm.
that it starts getting really questionable.
No, and I agree with that. I think we might just have a disagreement of what defines core gameplay loop. But what you said of having it be optional is fine, and having it lock necessary things behind the minigame is not. That I agree with. I suspect, like I said, we just have different definitions of what optional is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm just. It's not that it's a matter of, purely optional. It's just how much of it is locked behind. Like, an ultimate weapon is optional, but it's also not the kind of thing that should be tied to
A side
disconnected
quest.
mini game. It could be a side
Yeah.
quest. I'd just rather it be a side quest that it has a story associated with it and a
Hmm.
boss fight associated with it that tests the things that the game has been building you up towards,
Yeah.
rather than essentially throwing you a brand new set of rules and saying, okay, now fucking do this.
Yeah,
top tier so that you can get the ultimate weapon and then never do this again.
yeah, I do get that, and I agree that that's shitty. But I also understand that me personally, I very rarely go out of my way to get the ultimate weapon, even if it's not minigame locked. Just because that to me is optional, and I don't really.
Well, it's particularly obnoxious in 10 because you can hit 9999 by the end of the game easily.
Okay,
Easily.
yeah,
That's all my characters were. I swear if I could have gotten those things unlocked, it would have been hitting like 15,000 per hit easily or more.
oh, okay,
And I didn't do hardly any optional content,
okay,
which is another thing where it's like, again, it's optional, but it's really infringing on even just a regular playthrough of the game.
yeah, I get that. I
Anyway,
get that.
I don't
Well,
really have a whole lot to add to that because it was
what do you?
just.
Oh, I was to say, what do you think about one-time things that they only make you do once, and then you don't ever have to do it again, but you can if you want to? Like I'm thinking about fucking the Robo Race in Chrono Trigger.
That's fine as long as they give you the opportunity to retry without consequence. Because, like in Trails of Cold Steel 1 in particular, there were a
Hmm.
lot of moments where it'd throw you into a mini game and you had to win the mini game in order to get the bonus AP.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, if I have to like quit out of the scene and reload the whole goddamn scene just so that I can time X and circle pushes,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be pissed. But if I
Yeah.
can retry it as many times and the difficulty is okay, like it's moderate, it's not.
It's not crazy, but yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to, because in order to get the ultimate weapon in Final Fantasy X, you have to literally get a time of below zero point 0.0 seconds,
Nice. Okay.
which means you have to collect bonuses on the map that lower your time and not get hit by any of the obstacles.
Okay.
Like, it is insanely tough.
Okay.
So, as long as the difficulty is moderate and you can retry it without consequence, fine.
Still not a fan, but it's tolerable.
I mean, I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to like break up the gameplay,
Yeah.
but when I think of something like Persona 5, which is a stupidly long game, and there really aren't hardly any mini games anyway. Like there are, but you have to spend a day with them, so I never do.
Yeah.
And I never felt to myself, "Fuck, this gameplay loop is getting tedious."
Yeah. Exactly. Okay.
Like a lot of the longer games don't fucking have mini games to break up the gameplay loop, and I've never thought, wow, this sure would be fun if it had more mini games.
I agree. I've
So
never had that issue.
it does it like bug me when it does happen? Not really. Like whatever.
Okay.
It really is more what is the requirement for the mini game. Like, do you have to play the mini game to get something really really necessary to your
Okay.
combat specs?
Okay.
It's like I don't even know what the fuck the snowboarding gives you in Cold Steel 2.
Just random bullshit, like little items and nothing.
I know it gives
Nothing.
you the
Nothing
breath
game
gem,
changing.
or one of the good air gem.
Yeah. I mean,
But
but nothing
yeah,
game
but no,
changing.
nothing like the ultimate fucking weapon.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's fine.
Okay. All right. I'm cool with that.
Oh shit!
What?
You get the Skanda gem from doing level 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good one. But again, like none of the quartz are
Yeah.
like
Again, non.
necessary.
It's not game changing.
It's not the ultimate weapon for the main fucking character. I
Yeah.
cannot get over that.
Nice. All right.
And if somebody is going to be like, well, it's actually the key to unlock the ultimate weapon because you can get the ultimate. I know, I don't care.
Okay. Nice.
If
All
you're going
right.
to get fucking uppity about Final Fantasy X, you can fuck right off. There's only like one person who listens to these anyway,
Yeah.
and that's directed at you specifically, one person.
That one person you can fuck off. Fuck off if you want to be uppity
About Final Fantasy X,
about Final Fantasy. Okay. You can be uppity about other things, and that's okay. Just not
not
Final Fantasy
Final
X.
Fantasy X.
Okay.
I do not give a single shit.
All right. Okay. My turn.
Yes.
Okay. This one, kind of like last week, applies to games in general, but I'm trying to make it RPG-ish because, what's some kind of narrative tool or storytelling device or something like that that you see other mediums use that games either don't really use at all or you would like to see used more often?
Okay. You need to go
Yeah.
first on this one
You
because
want
I
me to
want to
go
get an
first?
idea of like where you're coming from with the question before I answer.
Okay. Personally, I'm a fan of like the inconsistent narrator where you don't quite know what's true and what's not, and there's a little bit of
I think that's like an untrustworthy narrator.
whatever. It's like
An,
I've been trying to,
an inconsistent narrator would
yeah, I've been trying to remember what the first fucking word is. There's a
untrustworthy.
proper, uh, yeah, but I feel like I never really see anything in games where I doubt what's real or what's not or what's right. I feel like whatever I see is always just what it is. And the very few games that I can think of that kind of play with that are really interesting. Like I'm thinking of Call of Duty Black Ops, the very first one, where you're fucking brainwashed and you're doing all these things with this guy, but the guy is all in your head, and you're doing all the stuff, and you think you're a good guy, and you're not. And at the end, with the reveal, it's like this big whole thing. Or in Senua's Sacrifice, where you hear all these little voices telling you what to do, and some tell you the right thing, and some tell you the wrong thing, and some try to help you, and some try to, trick you, and there's no way to tell which is which. I found that unique and interesting in a way that's not just everything the game shows you and tells you is as it is.
It can. I just as long as it doesn't become something that exists solely for the twist at the end, because
No,
that's like my big problem with Bioshock.
yeah,
Is all anybody remembers from Bioshock is Would You Kindly.
yeah,
Like nothing else in the game fucking matters. There's just that twist. The
mm,
whole game is a twist,
yeah,
and it's like,
and I'm
no.
not a fan of the twist. It's like I feel like that's different because that's just a thing. That's not like
Well, you used Black Ops, and to me that sounded exactly like Bioshock.
it.
You think you're
Not
doing one thing because the voice in your head is telling you to do it, and then at the end, whoops.
see with Black Ops though, you're seeing a character who's not even there, and things aren't. It's not just a matter of you were being told what to do. I mean, I'm trying to find a way to say this right because I know I sound like I'm fucking gibbering. But in BioShock, they say, would you kindly do this and then you do this, or would you kindly not do that and then you go and not do that. And Black Ops, I don't know, it felt different because you saw this other guy kill some guy while you were off doing fuck knows what, and that's not what happened. What you saw isn't what actually happened. Whereas in BioShock, what you saw is what happened. You understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
And that just not. the point where you don't believe everything that you see just as it is right there, not necessarily as a twist, but as a core part of the game, which I think the Senua's Sacrifice example might actually be a little bit better, but I suspect you haven't played that.
I don't even know what the fuck that is.
Game was fucking great, by the way.
I don't even know what the fuck game it is.
Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice. Some fucking
Oh, oh,
B
okay.
game by Ninja Theory, I think it was. But the
Yeah,
main
yeah, I
character,
know what it is. I
yeah.
kept hearing Senuous Sacrifice, and somebody I know is playing a bunch of old 90s shooters.
Oh, okay.
And that totally, it's like Senua's Sacrifice or something like that. Like, you keep saying
Ah,
Senuous. I'm like,
but
sinew? Like, bone sinew? Like, we going fucking metal again? Like,
Senua, I think that was the character's name. But she had schizophrenia, so the things that you were seeing and hearing weren't as they were, and that was just really cool. It was different, and I think it'd be cool to see more of that particular different way of telling a story where things just don't line up or don't match up, and you gotta figure out what's real and what's not, and figure out the order of these things, and all those the mindfuck movie genre. Just play with that idea of non-reliable narrator or viewpoint or whatever the fuck you want to use. I just think it'd be cool to see more of that,
but somehow in a Jerpica.
but somehow in a JRPG to make it to tie it back into RPGs, but somehow in a JRPG.
Yeah, it's like, because I'm trying to think how that would work
I don't know
beyond
how.
beyond a would you kindly esque twist.
I
You
don't know.
thought you had free will, but it was I all along. Oh,
No, but
whatever, asshole.
you could be fighting enemies, and maybe some of the enemies aren't real, and I don't know. I don't fucking
I,
know. I'm
I
not.
think the ones that could hit you and cause you pain are real.
See, but you could still feel the hallucinations, and I don't fucking know. I'm not a writer or a psychologist. I'm just saying, there's something there that I would like to see done by someone who knows how
I'm
to do
just
that better than
picturing
me.
this in my head now, like your fucking main character fighting invisible enemies, so like your party members look on like, what the fuck is this guy doing?
See, I'd be cool with that. Like,
Like everybody's
again,
just looking at you like, what
you
the
know,
fuck, dude?
another example that actually did it well was Spec Ops: The Line, which again, not an RPG, but another fucking shooter. But the things that you saw weren't the things that were there, and that was cool, and I liked that, and I'd like to see that again, somehow in a JRPG.
Okay. I mean, I'm not saying it can't be done.
I, I,
Anything
I, I don't
can be done.
I don't know how to do it. It'd have to be someone who's a better writer than me, but it'd be cool to see, I think.
I
That's
think
all.
it could be doable.
Mm,
I think I mean, the best way is really when you can tie the story to the game somehow,
mm,
to the gameplay. So I think you'd have to do something there.
yeah,
And I
because
definitely think you could. I mean, to me, it'd start with redefining the party dynamic so that it like all your party members are like some element of the main character's psyche, but that's not immediately apparent.
I could get behind something like that.
So like you think you have this cast party of characters, but you don't.
It's really just one guy kind of arguing with his own thoughts.
Yeah.
I could get behind something like that.
And I think one way to avoid the twist, it all just being a twist,
Hmm.
would be to make it immediately apparent. Well, because then that
See,
gets rid of the unreliable aspect.
exactly. I mean, unless it came out slowly
Or you
or
revealed it like
or
halfway or something. Like,
or there were hints, or maybe some of them were Not, or maybe some of your party members are real and some aren't, and you don't know which, or
Yeah,
I
but
don't
then
know
you
how
have
to.
to explain why people would hang around this fucking weirdo.
Yeah, which is difficult, but it's there somewhere, and I'd like to see it.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's mine. So
Um.
you have
Most
anything?
mostly, I'd just like to see more relatable issues that aren't high school drama issues.
Okay.
Start bringing in and stuff that isn't necessarily explored in such an overt teenage way.
Okay.
Because, I think of something like the film Burning, because that's something you've seen.
Yeah.
And there isn't a game that even comes close to trying to capture themes like that.
No, there's not.
Like the sort of isolation. Like the best part of that movie is that depending on who you sympathize with, it recontextualizes the actions of every other character.
Hmm.
Like whether or not the female lead is somebody who is desperately trying to connect with other people or a manipulative abuser,
Yeah.
you can take that both ways. Whether or not
Yeah.
the villain, or the quotes villain, is a villain,
All
or
just depends on
rich,
how you see it.
yeah, or a rich guy trying to have fun. Like you could literally either just be a murderer or some guy who is actually just a pretty cool dude hanging around, a
Hang on.
dude that he doesn't really have to.
Yeah.
And it just all comes down to how you watch and interpret the movie. And I think thematically, that's the point.
Okay.
Is it's a part of it is just the subjective perspective of life and how we perceive life, and how you never have the whole story,
Yeah.
because that's one of the subjective reality is one of the it's based on a short story written by Haruki
Okay.
Murakami, who the subjective reality is like his entire thing that he works with in his work.
Okay.
And you just never see that in games, usually explored in a mature way. Because
Okay.
usually what ends up happening, there's kind of two extremes.
Hmm.
You have the JRPG, like Tales of the Abyss is actually a great game thematically,
Okay.
because it's trying to like explore stuff like identity and who am I, what makes a person a person.
Okay.
Can a clone be a person? Is a person made up, defined by their DNA or by their memories?
Okay.
What right does a clone have to life? Like there's these really deep concepts in there,
Yeah, that sounds like that would be really interesting.
but they're all explored in this very jerpaga teenage way that
Uh, yeah.
that rather than really trying to tackle the depth and ambiguity of these questions,
They try and just find a happy answer.
yeah, they just streamline it all into like you're a good person, whatever, it's fine, redemption, yay.
Okay.
Like
And it loses some of the impact when they try to answer this not really answerable question,
yeah, I mean,
or this like personal question.
well, when they try to simplify it,
Okay.
because I think a good book should leave you with as many questions, but not questions about the plot, not like questions about the what happened, but questions about the
The,
themes. Do I agree? Do I disagree? This is how
okay.
one person managed to find their way through life, and I see myself in this person. Does this apply to my life? Like stuff like that.
So okay. So the questions that it leaves you with are more personal, introspective questions.
So sometimes, well, what I'm saying is that sometimes it's okay to leave you with questions
Hmm.
rather than try to give an answer to something like as specific as like what does it mean to live.
Okay.
Rather than try to like streamline it into like it means power of friendship and love. Just try to take a more nuanced approach to it.
Okay.
But then the other half, you have a lot of Western games that sort of try to tackle these heavy issues,
Hmm.
but do so in such a PC brain dead way.
I've noticed that.
And I'm thinking of stuff like the Naughty Dog games, where everybody praises them because, oh, they tackle these deep issues, but they don't really have anything clever or unique to say
But
about them.
it's just a story with that issue in it,
Yeah, it's
and
like,
it's
did
it,
you know that people can be monsters? Like, mankind's the real monster. No
oh,
way! Like, they just,
yeah. I It
like,
doesn't say anything.
yeah, and, stuff like God of War and whatnot. And I know I'm getting out of the RPG territory, but, like, all these big cinematic games that everybody praises, and it's just like, but it's the most bog standard shit, realistically.
Yeah,
It's like, it's not complicated. It's not really saying anything about life that goes beyond surface level shit.
yeah. It just tells you its side, or just makes a statement, and then that's it.
And it usually just does so in such a dramatic, over the top way that even though it's not the teenage way of trying to oversimplify it like a Jerpica does,
It
there's,
still doesn't make you think about it. It just kind of
yeah, it's still not doing justice to the subject matter because it's
okay.
trying to also be a Hollywood action movie on top of that.
Hmm.
Like, no, it's
All right.
not Call of Duty's fucking guns blazing everywhere. It's more Die Hard. And let's be real,
Oh,
like the original Die Hard is a good film, but it's not exactly philosophical or introspective.
no, it's still just a action movie,
Yeah,
and God of War is still just an action game,
yeah.
just with a little bit more there, but not exactly enough to call it anything but an
And
action game.
and that's really where I think video games as a medium are still trailing behind books and movies.
Okay.
Just bring in the nuance and depth and the
Okay.
moral complications. And it's weird because in a way you can do it even better with video games because you can force the player,
To be the one making those decisions, or to see everything firsthand.
yeah, or to give them the option whether or not you want to make that decision.
Okay. All right.
It's like Nocturne doesn't really have. It's not a very story heavy game, but conceptually, it's such a fascinating setting.
Okay.
This sort of purgatorial world where the new world will be shaped by whichever ideology is the strongest.
Hmm.
So you have conflicting ideologies like every person should have a world unto themselves that they can craft for themselves, but everybody is isolated in their own worlds.
Okay. I could see some people liking that and some not, and
And
the thought of whether or not that would work.
yeah, and it doesn't dig deep into these philosophies, which I'm not going to knock the game for because that's not what the game is trying to do.
Hmm.
But in terms of like an example in a game where they had the potential to really dig into this and make something fascinating and complex, and I'm trying to avoid those buzzwords of like mature, dark,
Yeah.
the things that aren't
Yeah.
really what I'm trying to get at here. To really capture the nuance of ideological conflict.
Okay.
That was probably the closest I've seen.
Okay.
And again, that's not saying it's like the best example. It's just an example.
But it's one that still kind of works.
Yeah, where I would have liked them to see it explored more.
All right. Hmm. Yeah, I would appreciate that a little bit more depth and personal thought to it instead of just a straight answer or a straight story.
And and I should also say I don't want this to be every game
No,
because I think there's like a tendency when you start saying stuff like this for people to be like, I just play games to relax. That's fucking fine, dude. Nobody's
that
telling you how to
it's like
play
that
your games.
that still needs to be there. I just want more options. I want those
Yeah,
and these instead of
yeah,
just those or just the yeah.
yeah. Just widen the field. That's
I
all
I
I'm
get
saying. I'm not trying to like take away your free, happy, I don't want to think about it time. That's fine.
I love my free happy I don't want to think about it time, but sometimes I want to think about it.
It's like I don't have a problem with the Avengers movies existing.
I don't either. They're nothing serious or deep or anything, but it's a fun, enjoyable movie about people punching shit, and that's fun sometimes.
But I appreciate in movies that there is stuff like Burning out there that's more
The
thought provoking,
okay,
and it's the same in books where I
where
don't have a
there's
problem with the fucking whatever 50 Shades of Twilight, whatever.
hmm
I have no
there's
problem with
both
that.
there's both sides to the deep and the shallow,
Yeah, and it's just in
but
games you don't so
there,
much have,
there's not as much of a divide between the two sides,
and usually
or
the
or as
more
much range.
yeah, and usually a lot of the more thought-provoking games tend to be smaller projects. Like there's some good indie projects out
A
there
lot of
that
indies and things.
do some stuff with that, but again, it comes back to just because of the cost of games, they're so interested in
In something that'll
returning that
sell,
investment. Yeah.
that they don't really want to take a risk on this thought provoking, that might not sell with everyone.
Yeah, and that's again why in the West you end up with a game that really isn't saying anything challenging
Hmm.
because that wouldn't sell.
No, and the ones, yeah, I've seen them, try to do that, and they always kind of kill some of that seriousness trying to make the gameplay enough that'll sell anyways, and it loses some of that impact. But all right, yeah, I could see that, see a little bit more.
All right, we're at 48 minutes. Do you want to cycle back and pick up that one question or go ahead and call it and save that one for next time?
We can do one more. I'm already here.
Alrighty, so this is I don't know if you can really narrow it down to one, but what's the if you can. If not,
Okay.
that's fine. What's the game that was like when you really were like JRPGs are my jam?
Um, either either Chrono Trigger or Persona 3. I think
Really?
Chrono
3?
I think yeah, Chrono Trigger's the one where I realized this is a new genre that I might be interested in seeing more of. And even though I never beat it, I think Persona 3 is the one that showed me the potential that they actually have.
Spice 3 because you played 4 first.
I yeah, I guess I did.
Because that's what I was gonna say is like Chrono Trigger I really liked as a kid,
Yeah,
but I mean
it's
when we met in junior high,
mm,
you remember you were the RPG guy, I was the shooter guy.
yeah,
I played like
just
nothing but shooters.
just weird because I don't really remember playing a whole lot of RPGs. I remember playing a lot of platformers. RPGs, I guess,
Who knows? It could have just been like you were playing one time and that was all it
or
took.
action RPG or RPG adjacent.
Yeah, I was a Spurg in junior high, so who the fuck knows? Either way,
Hmm.
so like there are these games that I recall fondly from my childhood, like Chrono Trigger and Golden Sun,
Yeah.
but then I just sort of fell out with RPGs,
Okay.
and the one that I think really did pull me back in was Persona
Okay.
3 specifically. But even then, I didn't really get into it for a while. I had it for a while, and I just didn't get into it.
Okay.
And then I played 4 and really loved it. And then I went on another sort of RPG hiatus for a while until I found the Tales games.
Yeah, I remember there was a while where you were just nonstop with all the tales.
Yeah, and then the Tales I think was where it really took off and hasn't.
Hasn't died down since.
I mean, there are times, I've gone like a year or two without playing a JRPG, but I recognize it more as a phase now.
Hmm.
Like I'll cycle back into it. I always cycle back into them,
Yeah,
so it no longer feels like go. I'll never play another one again. It's just it'll come back.
I get that.
So yeah, I have like 4 or 5 games that I could give it to. I'm leaning towards Persona 3 though, specifically because that was the first one where, and I think a lot of people will appreciate this who come from music.
Mm.
It had a style different to anything that my dad played, so it felt like something that was mine that I discovered.
I get that.
Because this was a long time ago. This was before Persona was really popular. I mean,
Hmm.
I mean, 5 made it mega mainstream, but this was before even Golden made it a little bit mainstream.
Yeah, it was still random bullshit that no one knew of.
Yeah, this was just some fucking random crap. This was like 2008, I think I got it.
Hmm.
So it really did have that feeling of just discovering something that's like,
Personal,
yeah, oh, this is my type of game, not my
not
dad's
my
type of game.
like. I'm not just playing whatever my dad was playing anymore. Now this is mine.
Yeah, well, and I mean, like, obviously, by that point I was in high school, so it's not like I was just copying my dad all the time, but it's just that feeling of JRPGs were always my dad's genre.
Yeah,
So to fully appreciate that not all JRPGs were Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest or
that's
Pokemon.
that's the one that made JRPGs unique and made them like your genre too.
Yeah, that was finding out that there was just so much more out there than just,
Than the traditional Final Fantasy and
yeah, the
Dragon
Square
Quest.
Enix umbrella.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That actually makes a fair amount of sense. 'Cause, yeah, like I said, Persona 3 for me too was the one that like I think showed me what it could be, and what else other options there were.
Which it just, the reason it cracks me up is I just remember I I well, I got like halfway through Persona 3 and burned myself out,
Yeah.
and then you got 4,
Mhm.
and that was what inspired me to go back to 3.
Okay.
And it was, you came over to my house once, and you were playing 4 on one TV, and I was playing 3 on the other.
Yeah.
And I actually remember it was when Adachi catches the stalker,
Okay.
and I was so much more interested in what you were doing, and your affection got stuck in my head so bad that I ended up ordering 4.
I actually remember that part. I remember fucking the TVs. I was on that fucking little small screen on the right, just blasting your affection.
Yeah, that
I
that
remember
got
that.
so stuck in my head,
I
even though
remember
I
that
was
one.
playing 3,
Hmm.
that that's I had to order the game, and I got it, and then I was just finishing 3. Like I ended up really loving 3 for its own sake, but I just
Mhm.
wanted to get onto 4, and then I got onto 4, and then you went to 3, and then you said you really loved 3, and I was like, 4 is my jam all day.
Yeah, and
We like
yeah.
flip flopped.
And then I went back to 4. I never, but yeah.
That's your
So
humorous anecdote for the week.
you have a fun fact this week, like you did last week?
Well, my fun fact for this week, my fun question was just going to be like I said, because I was thinking of specifically, I think it's Theater Rhythm or Tetra Rhythm Final Fantasy.
Oh,
That
okay.
that is a rhythm game that it's all based on Final Fantasy tracks. So I was going to say, okay, what's a JRPG franchise? If you could make a rhythm game out of any JRPG franchise, what would it be? And then I was like, my answer would be Persona. And then I remembered that already fucking exists, and I haven't played it, and I have no interest in fucking playing it.
Played it. I actually really liked it.
So what's the point of this stupid question if it already exists and I don't care?
It was fun, actually. I didn't think it would be. I don't know why the fuck I bought it, but I actually really liked it. The 5 and 3 fucking like remake tie-in whatever bullshits were kind of lame, but the one for 4 that actually had its own story, I liked that one.
And it's just one of those questions that's like, oh wait, there's actually an answer to this.
It's like, oh wait, there's a real answer.
So I mean, if you can think of one,
I don't know. Any other RPG franchise?
exactly.
Anything else would be my next choice.
That's I'm pretty much right there with you, man. We'll do a music episode someday,
Oh God,
but it'll be a while.
that'll be a while. Yeah, that'd
All
be
right.
editing work.
Well, the problem is, it's not just that it'd be editing work. It'd be editing work for the YouTube algorithm to then be like, this is copyrighted material and strike it down.
Hmm.
And then all that editing work will have been for shit.
Yeah.
And that'd kill me inside. So maybe what I'll do is I'll be really terrible. I just go find a link to the song on YouTube and be like, click on link 1 for this song.
That would be awful.
That would be awful. But then there's no way I'm getting fucking copyright strike.
That would work. That would
uh,
work.
all right, see you next week. In this episode, I'm actually going to stop recording and just go fucking upload it.
Right.
Yeah.